Everybody has their views and thoughts about Jordan Peterson, but I promise that if you watch this video until the end, you are going to have a very, very, very valuable piece of advice towards sorting out your life. I'm Coach Colin, coolest high performance coach in the world, and if you want the absolute best insights to the podcasts and videos you love, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it.
And I gave away the Future Authoring Program as part of this video I made suggesting to millennials that instead of rushing out there to change the world by changing other bad people, that they should look inward and sort themselves out properly. And I think we've given away about 4,000 or 5,000 of those programs so far.
Now
I'm
you said
thrilled
it's
about that.
free till the end of November, and
Yeah.
then what happens with it?
Well, the Future Authoring Program is regularly $14.95, and the whole self-authoring suite, which involves, it's a program that helps you write an autobiography. So it helps you sort out things about your past that are still burdening you. You can tell, if you have a memory that's more than 18 months old, approximately, and when you pull that memory up to mind, if you still have an emotional reaction, that means you haven't fully articulated the memory. You haven't analyzed it causally. You haven't freed yourself from its grasp, and you're carrying it like a weight. And your brain responds to that. Like the more weight you're carrying like that, more baggage, let's say, the more of the stress hormone cortisol your brain produces, and cortisol makes you old. Some of this work has been done by James Pennebaker at the University of Texas at Austin, because he started to pioneer these sorts of writing programs, and he found that if people wrote about uncertain things, past, present, or future, so they could be traumatic things, they could be uncertain things, that their physical health improved. And he did a lot of detailed research trying to figure out why that was, and basically came down to the explanation that it was something like an uncertainty reduction mechanism at work. Because your brain is always figuring out how well situated are you in the world. How much do you not know compared to how much have you mastered? And you can tell that you've mastered things because when you go somewhere and you act, things turn out the way you want them. That's an indication of mastery. And your brain is sort of keeping track across your whole life of how many places you've been where things haven't worked out compared to how many places you have been where they have worked out. And if all those places in your past where things haven't worked out, you need to map and master. And that decreases the existential load on you, but that actually decreases your psychophysiological load. It makes you healthier. It makes you less stressed. And so we've put all that together in this self-authoring suite to help people write about their past, to sort it out in a detailed autobiography. It asks you questions about your past. It says, divide your life up into 6 epochs, and then divide each of those, that might be, say, birth to kindergarten, and then maybe elementary school, and then maybe junior high school, however you want to do it, and then to write about the emotionally significant events in each of those epochs, and then to describe their effects on you, and then to analyze how you did in those situations, what you might have done differently, what you might do differently in the future, to straighten out your past. And I've done that with my students in my Maps of Meaning class for about the last 10 years, and some people have written 15,000 words. It's not that uncommon for students to write 15,000 words in their autobiography.
Wow.
So
that's such great advice. That's such great advice about reconciling with your past, because so many people just carry it around.
yeah, well, if you're thinking about your past, what it means is you haven't analyzed the causal chains. Because you might say, well, why do you remember your past? Well, you might say, well, it's in order to have an objective record of the past. It's like it has nothing to do with that. There's only one reason you remember the past, and that's to be prepared for the future. That's why you remember the past. And so what you're supposed to do is take the past and extract out from it wisdom. And wisdom is the ability to avoid stumbling blindly into ditches. And so you think, well, here's a time in my past I stumbled blindly into this horrible ditch and terrible things happened to me. It's like, okay, you need to take that apart. You need to figure out, how was it that events conspired with your participation, voluntarily or involuntarily, so that terrible consequence emerged? You need to know why that happened and how you could react differently in that situation. And as soon as you do that, your brain will leave it alone. It won't obsess you about it anymore, because the anxiety-producing parts of your brain are basically trying to tell you where there are obstacles in your environment. It's like, look out, don't go there, don't go there. It's like, well, don't go there, there's fire. Well, maybe you could master the fire, right? then you're a wielder of fire. You're not just a victim. And lots of situations are dangerous or not dangerous depending on your level of mastery, right? I mean, life is like that. And so a negative emotion that's associated with a memory is something that's crying out for mastery. And writing can really help with that. So you're reorganizing your brain when you write autobiographically. You're basically, the emotions, memories can be stored at different levels of your brain, from sort of primordial reptilian image-laden areas that are very emotional, up to finely articulated plans for your future life. Well, you want to take everything that's negative and emotional and transform that into a fully articulated vision for your future. And that frees you of your past. You shouldn't be thinking about your past. I mean, maybe if you're 80 and you're going over a well-spent life, that's a whole different thing. But if you're 30, 35 or 20 and most of the time you're thinking about your past, it's like your soul is trapped back there. And you need to free it through investigation. And the metaphysical language is appropriate because that is in a sense what you're doing. You're trapped in the past. It's like you got to break free of that so you can use all your resources to move ahead into the future.
Wow. Holy. Oh, man. I always tend to use my heart as a beacon for what I should and shouldn't be doing, who I should and shouldn't be around. When I feel like a certain pressure, anxiety around my heart, or nervousness or something like that, I tend to try and move away from that situation. Not cower, but something in my heart tells me I shouldn't be here. Not fear. It's not a fear, but right now I feel that so much. Like I feel like I should be doing this exact thing that he said, because this is and this is not an ad for what he has going on, because it still exists and you can still do it. This is not an ad, but I'm telling you, I make my clients do something like this. Not to this extent, but something exactly like this. I make them think of their ideal self. I make them tell me where they are right now, very truthfully and honestly. And then we build a roadmap together to get them to where they could be, where they should be in life. And that works well. But, again, I'm not a clinical psychologist. And what he has laid out here is absolutely incredible. It's like your soul is stuck in the past. That's exactly what it's like. And everybody has, Bill Burr has a little joke that he said on his podcast, I think. Bill Burr, a comedian, if you don't know. And he's like, sometimes I'm in the shower and he just goes, "Ah!" because he thinks of some past embarrassing moment, and he's like, I do that every 6 months. Every now and then I think of when I was in the 6th grade and I said something stupid. And everybody has a little thing like that. And it's because you haven't analyzed it. You didn't, exactly what he said. You didn't map it and analyze it, extract the wisdom from it so you can move on. Because that's what your brain likes. And if I had to put it in a simpler way for anybody who felt like that was too dense, what he was saying is open loops. There's a book called Getting Things Done by someone named David Allen. It's a very dense, very boring book. It's about productivity. But one thing that he talks about is open loops and the stress that your mind has towards these open loops. Now, what are open loops? I have this. Oh, it's heavy. I have this. It's an in folder. So this is all my open loops, all the things that I have to deal with. Now, not to be deceitful, there is a large stack of printer paper in there, but it's pretty full. But what he has you do is he has you write down on pieces of paper everything that you feel like you need to deal with in your life, just everything. And this is more towards work, but you can do it towards emotional, meaningful things that you feel like you should be doing or should be getting done or should be handling, or just straight up bothering you, traumas, hurts, pain, anything. And one thing that he says is, he's like, every time he has somebody put in all their open loops, just write out all their open loops, write them all out. He says every single person experiences this relief. And it's a relief from their mind, because as you're writing out all these open loops that you have, you're relieving yourself from them in your brain. Your brain will keep, exactly like Jordan Peterson said, but a little more simple. Your brain just will keep on bringing up the open loops. If you didn't deal with something, your brain will just bring it up. Your brain will be like, hey, are we going to deal with this? And you'll be like, no, I'm doing something. And your brain's like, okay, no problem. And then it'll be like, hey, are we going to deal with this? And you're like, no, I'm doing something. Okay. And it'll just keep doing that. And it'll keep bringing up the same stuff until you deal with it. Your brain is super smart, but also super dumb. And it likes when things get dealt with. And it won't stop circling back to those things until you deal with them. And it goes in line exactly with what Jordan Peterson's saying. You literally will de-stress. And the fact that you're releasing cortisol is just mind-blowing, because that is a terrible hormone to have released 24/7 in your mind because you're not dealing with your past. Really, really tough. But again, open loops. And the more you stop these loops, the more you can externalize these loops. And by that, I mean writing them down. The more weight you're going to take off your mind. I've had a client do this, and I thought that, he'd write some things down. He said he had a lot on his mind. I'm like, write down all your open loops and see how it feels. And he did it, and he had 200 things that he wrote down. 200. And all that tells me is there were 200 things that were weighing down on his mind that he didn't even consciously know were weighing down in his mind. And the second he got them onto paper, he felt way better. So I would definitely just take this advice. The future author, the self-authoring suite is still on Jordan Peterson's site. I'm sure if you just write Jordan Peterson self-authoring, I'm sure you'll find it. Like 100% you'll find it, and it will. I'm doing it. I'm 100% doing it. And I think you should too. If you have exactly what he said, if there's any thought that's far back as like more than 24 months, I think he said 18 months, but 2 years. If you have a memory that is more than 2 years old and it's still coming up in your mind, that means it's not dealt with, and that you have to actually write it out and deal with it. And once you deal with it, you're going to feel so much better. Because like he said, you're stuck in your past. It's like your soul's there. And it's the reason why you can't move forward. There's so many people in life that don't understand why they can't move forward, why they can't break through in certain areas. And this is why. Because there's too much of you and your energy in the past. And if you can deal with that stuff and take that energy and bring it to your present self, you will bash through your future. You will have breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. And as I'm telling you that, I'm telling myself that as well. I'm doing this. I'm 100% doing this. I don't have the money to get this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, please deal with your past. Please deal with the past traumas and hurts and pains. Please. I'm going to do probably a video series on me doing it myself. And I'll open up about some things that I can open up about. And yeah, I know it's going to help me, and I know it could help you, because again, it's so that we can become more useful people in our lives and in our futures. You need all the energy you can get in life. You need all of you that you can get. If there's too much of you back there, there ain't too much that you're going to be able to give to your future self. So, there you go. I'm out. Peace.